So welcome to Move and Meditate this morning. We will need mainly one thing today that could either be a lot or very simple. So my intention is to practice a quite restorative inversion today. And you can either use something like the couch here, that's to rest your legs upon, or a chair, which is the easier version of using this as a support. But you could also have a bolster. If you're using a bolster, you would also need 2 blocks or 2 piles of books that could be even higher than the blocks are right now. So if this means you need to head off briefly and grab any of those things because you don't have the couch nearby or a chair or anything, please do run off. And then we will begin in a lying position. And if you do have a bolster, that of course comes in handy, as you could place the bolster underneath your knees. But there's no need to use anything at all unless you require that for the health of your back. But here again, you could also step your feet down and let the knees fall in. Full Shavasana, of course, is welcome as well. So just lying yourself down basically on your back, supporting yourself, keeping yourself warm, aligning the body and making as many little adjustments as you might need. And then as you come into this resting shape, you can choose to close your eyes. Or if that is challenging for you this morning, you could also keep the eyes open, but steady your gaze. So looking at something steady against the ceiling. Noticing how you're feeling today. And especially what your physical body is holding for you. You might also notice your support underneath, and be that very simply the mat or extra cushioning that you have chosen. As you allow yourself to feel that the topic that I've chosen for this week is the 5th, and with that last yama. And this is aparigraha. I will translate that for you into non-grasping. Not to hold on to things. And you might like to hear what Krishna had to say about that. And this is taken from the Bhagavad Gita, one of the ancient texts. Let your concern be with the action alone, and never with the fruits of action. Do not let the results of your action be your motive. And do not be attached to inaction. If you know you have something to do and share with the world, this teaching from the Bhagavad Gita tells us to do it, and to do it with all of our hearts, and to let go of what might come from it. So for this practice, it might as simply mean as just practice for the love of practicing and being in this moment, rather than aiming for something in particular. A simple way of trying to let things be or let them go is sighing. And I would love us to practice a bit of sighing this morning. So you're taking a deeper breath in through your nose. If it feels comfortable, hold the breath. And then open your mouth and sigh it out softly or aloud. Noticing the body's response. And then we'll repeat that. So have little pauses between the sighs as well, where you're breathing softly and gently. But when you take your next deep in-breath, filling your lungs, and then maybe holding a little, and then sighing out. Notice for a couple of gentle breaths how the second sigh made you feel, and then progress in your own time. You're breathing in deeply through the nose until your lungs are filled with air, and you hold that air in if that works for you, and then you sigh it out silently or aloud, just releasing it out from your mouth. And with that, the jaw begins to relax, and you might notice then in the little pause where you're breathing gently what impact this has, maybe on the physical body or maybe further. Repeat the breath in, the pause if it works for you, and the sighing for a little bit longer. Don't put a count on it, but notice, how does it make you feel? Is the hold of the breath suitable? And what do your sighs look like? Are they soft? Are they loud? Or are they changing from one round to the next? In the pauses, observing the effect that the sighing has on you. A way of letting go, of letting be. After your next thigh sigh, relax completely and discontinue. Feeling the body again. Resting here on the mat. Before you might choose to bend your knees. And maybe rolling to your left side, unless something speaks against it, such as shoulder, neck issues, hip problems. You can always roll to the right side too. But I would love a little bit of weight pushing down, natural weight of your own body onto the heart. So to stimulate the heart a little before we're coming into a seated shape. So allowing yourself to be supported as you come up to sit. And I would ask you to start the seated form in the hero shape. So maybe sitting on your heels or between your feet, but only sit between your feet if this is entirely comfortable. Otherwise, you might use your bolster to support this shape and be comfortable like this as you hug the bolster in with your knees. Whatever supports you so you're sitting upright in your spine. We're not leaning back or extending into the reclined version. We're staying here. And as I was looking into our topic today, I found that Ganesha lends itself to the non-grasping. That's the elephant god. You don't have to know much about him at all, but there is a hand position that is quite graspy. So I would like you to turn your right palm to face up, bring the left palm to face down, and then hook up all of your fingers, and the thumbs can just hug around that. As you hold here, let your shoulders relax a little, and then get a little pull on the fingers. So as if you wanted to pull your hands apart, but we are grasping a fair bit here. And as you're inhaling from this place, now starting to pull on the right hand, and that takes you into a twist. And when you inhale, you center yourself again. Now pull with your left hand as you're breathing out and come to a twist on the other side. And then inhale again to center. And exhale, we'll repeat that with the right side. Inhaling, come to center. And exhaling, do again with the left. Now repeat that in your own pace, once more to each side. Ganesha, this is Ganesha Mudra, is said to help us overcome obstacles. So as you center yourself again, just let your hands release down upon your thighs. Maybe keep the palms facing upwards as a gesture of non-grasping. And if you feel you are holding on quite tightly, you could loosen up and move your fingers. It might feel nice in general, again, to just move the fingers. And we will change our position from here. So if, like myself, you're wearing socks, it might be a good idea to remove them now. To also remove any props from your mat as we come onto all fours. So coming to stand now on your hands and on your knees. We will extend out just the right leg, but we keep the toes on the ground and tucked under. Become strong across your hands and your arms as you lean to the bases and the pets of the fingers away from your wrists. And while you maintain that, starting to press out into the right heel. To change sides, you can choose, depending on what you're feeling like today, to bring the right knee down or to lift the left knee up. And if your knees are down, extending now the left leg, and otherwise lowering the right knee. Still be strong in your arms, away from your wrists, and encourage the left heel to move backwards. Beautiful. Then release both knees onto the ground. Keep your knees parallel and reach your hips back to the heels. The head stays away from the floor and we're rising up onto the fingertips. So now our hands are like little cups as we rest on the fingertips, keeping the back of the neck long in its natural curve as you inhale. And while you're exhaling, just walking the hands across towards the right-hand side. You might look to that space between the hands, but then surrender yourself as you lower the palms down and lower the head down. If you want to extend this further, let your left hand slide on top of your right and encourage the left side of the hip towards the heel. Then walking your hands back into the center and rising again up onto the fingertips, those cups where you're able to release the shoulders, lengthen through the spine, and then walking the hands across now to the left. While you explore on your fingers, you might then slide the fingers open and plant the palms down. If you want more, let the right hand rest over your left and encourage the right side of the hip towards the heel. Bringing your arms back into center and extending them forward. And while you take your next inhale, coming back up onto all fours. Now on your next inhalation, lifting your left arm and looking up. And as you're breathing out, let's thread the needle. We'll repeat that once more. So with the inhale, reaching the left arm up. And with the exhale, threading the needle and now landing down onto the ear and the shoulder. If this doesn't work for you, you might draw your bolster underneath and support and stay a little bit higher up and away from the shoulder. Otherwise, you might bring the fingertips of the right hand back down onto the mat and press gently into those fingertips so that your right elbow is lifted and the right shoulder starts to rise. It becomes a little bit lighter here around the upper back. But there might be a subtle squeeze of the shoulder blades that you could notice now, keeping your gaze along the floor. Keep a twist into the upper back. And to release that, start spreading your fingers out of the right hand. Push into the right hand, returning back up onto all fours. And then take a breath in and lift the right arm up, maybe follow it with the gaze. We'll have that as a movement first. On the exhale, thread the needle. On the inhale, lifting again. And on the exhale, threading the needle and then coming to lie down once more onto your ear, onto your shoulder. And maybe coming up onto the fingertips of the left hand, that same cup that we used before in child's pose. Raising through the left elbow, getting lighter in the left shoulder. Maybe the shoulder blades are coming closer while you keep your gaze along the floor, threading the needle shape. And then as you spread your fingers back out onto the mat, push yourself up and returning to all fours. You might now choose to tuck your toes under. If a down dog is too strong for you, you could extend the hips up and back for a puppy, but the hips stay in that case away from your heels. Otherwise, lift your knees off the ground and extend into downward facing dog. For down dog, let's start moving a bit as you encourage one heel down while bending the other knee to pedal out through your legs. And if it feels quite nice around the pelvis, you could start to move a bit more and extend further into the sides of the body. Keep walking, and if you like, you could also lift one hand and then the other and start a bit of further walking through the legs. Now keep walking and bring your feet towards the top end of your mat. Keep them separate and let your hands slide up to your shins or your thighs for a half lift on your inhale. And then fold back down on the exhale. We'll repeat that a couple of times. A waterfall on the inhale, rise, half lift, edge of waterfall. And then let the water fall down as you bend your knees and release the head. One more like this, inhaling, lengthen forward, exhaling to fold. And this time we'll stay folded forward. And if you like, you can allow your knees to be bent a fair bit. Let the arms hang down. Maybe it's the backs of the hands that are touching the floor. Maybe it's just the fingertips or the arms are just hanging down. Just noticing where are you at today and what you can enjoy here. It's about lengthening through the backs of the legs, back itself, allowing the neck a pause. And if you feel you can deepen this, you could slide your hands underneath your feet, standing on the palms of your hands with your toes, tickling your wrists slightly. Keep the head low, your gaze between the knees, and lean the weight towards the toes. The heels, of course, stay on the ground. And if you're standing on your hands now, keep lifting through the tailbone. Knees can remain bent as much as is required by your body. If you enjoyed the sighing, take 3 breaths here and let your breaths escape the mouth. Maybe deliberately, gently engaging the lower abdomen as you do so. And then when you are completed, your hands are underneath the feet, take them out, bend your knees a fair bit, bring your hands upon your thighs now, push into the thighs and just lengthen again halfway forward, modification of our half lift, and then press down into the feet as you're rising up to stand, taking a deep breath as you stretch both arms up towards the ceiling. Now we'll only let the right arm come down as we breathe out and bending over to the right hand side. Keeping your arm extended over the body. The other arm loose, the shoulders soft. And as you next inhale, stretch that out towards the ceiling. And when you're breathing out, let the left arm come down and bending across to the sides. Allowing yourself a moment in that extension. And as you're next inhaling, lifting both arms again. And this time, bend your knees and hips for chair pose, but take your hands down in front of the heart space. So be mindful that your sit bones might be wide open to accommodate the curve in your lower back, but that you're at the same time engaging your lower abdomen towards your tailbone to support the lower back. Now, here's a challenge for you. Have a look down at your knees. They're in line with each other. Keep them like this as you lift your gaze. And take an inhale just to open your arms out towards the left, but without bringing your knees out of this alignment. Wide open twisting. And then bring your hands back in front of the heart. Let's push down into the feet and extend the body completely. And inhale as you reach up towards the sky. And then bend your knees and hips again as you return your hands in front of your heart for that modified chair pose or Kadasana. Again, become aware either with gaze or just feeling the body, that your knees are parallel. And when you're next inhaling, turn towards the right, open your arms out wide. Maintaining the knees in balance. And then bring the hands back down in front of the heart. Again, push down into your feet. Extend the body on a breath in. And we will begin by stepping back our right foot, lowering the heel down of the right foot, preparation for our warrior two. We will keep our knee of the left leg pointing in line with the left toes. And while you inhale today and open the arms out to shoulder height, turn the palms upwards. Bring your gaze forward into the hands. We're strong in the lower body, the arches of the feet quite active, helping us to align the legs. Feel a subtle engagement of your core muscles and the upper body upright and buoyant. As we bring our hands back towards the heart, lifting through your back heel, stepping the foot forward. Taking a deep breath as again you're reaching arms up towards the sky. And as you breathe out, bring your hands back down and step your left foot back. Grounding through the left heel as the toes turn, open a bit, so is your pelvis. Bring a bend into the front knee. It can be that the left heel is a little bit further out if that helps with your alignment. And make sure that the front knee aligns with your toes. And then as you're inhaling again, let your arms open out, palms of the hands facing upward again, gaze is forward. You're feeling your strong support in the legs. The arches are lifted, you're grounding through the outer edge of the back foot, and you're quite as solid in the front foot, and the knee is aligned. There's inner strength that lifts you up, and there's openness in the body. Let's bring the hands back together in front of the heart, lifting through the back heel, and we're stepping the foot forward again. Let's take an inhale and again extend the arms upwards. And let's have a sigh, soften knees, and the arms are just swinging down, letting go again of structure. As you stand once more in a mountain shape, lifting the toes off the floor to engage the feet. As you ground the toes down, let the legs switch on, the glutes a little, turn the palms to be open and stand steady. Find a steady gaze point two. And if you feel that's appropriate, close the eyes for a moment. Noticing your mountain shape. With your next inhale, reach your arms back up towards the sky. Soften your knees as you breathe out, fold it forward. On the inhale, lengthen into a half lift. And as you're breathing out, walk, step, or even jump your feet into down dog. Down dog too much, please use all four stands instead. Soften your knees a bit. Now as for holding, if you're in a down dog, reach your hips further up and back, and you can do the same in the puppy shape. Would ask you to just feel for a moment as there's blood coming down into the head. Walking the hands then in little steps as we strengthen through the core back towards your feet. And I will ask you if you have knee issues, to just turn the feet out and to bend the knees a little bit. But if your knees are happy and so are your hips, lift the heels off the ground and come quite close towards the heels into a squatting position. So basically standing fully on the feet if your knees are having problems today, otherwise squatting down low. Now, if you can, let your heels touch for a bit of imaginary stability. And then if you're in the low squat, bring the knees together. Your feet in that case will align back underneath your hips. Now the challenge here is to, if you can, lift the hands and come back into the grip. You could also simply practice that seated if you're struggling with your balance here. And as you breathe out, let your right hand pull as you're twisting. Inhaling, come to the center. And then let your left hand pull as you're twisting. Inhale, come back to the center. We'll do that once more to each side, finding your own breath. Once you complete it, release the fingertips down. And you might notice there's been some good work going on in the legs, feet, and ankles. So to release that, lower the heels back down, come back into your standing forward bend. And while you might be at the back end of your mat, start to step your hands back forward, puppy or downward facing dog. On your inhale now, we're rolling forward, and please feel welcome to bring the knees to the mat in a kneeling plank. Full plank is fine too. And let your elbows slide along the side of the body as you breathe out to lower onto the mat. Taking your forehead down onto the ground. Grounding down to the tops of the feet. Keeping your hands where they are by the sides of your ribs. And as you're inhaling, lifting into a baby cobra. Let your shoulder blades squeeze a little bit together and let them deliberately slide down the spine. That will encourage the elbows to stay in. If you like, you can lift the hands off the floor now. And with the out breath, then squeezing down to the right side of the waist, elbow towards the hip, inhaling center, and repeat that to the left as you're breathing out. We'll do that once more to each side if that works for you. A nice squeeze into the side, a good squeeze into the kidneys, stimulating. And then when you're ready, release down in the center. Let your arms come alongside the body for a moment. Let an ear drop down to the floor that feels the most comfortable, and let your body relax. Noticing the heartbeat, but also changing the ear on the floor. If something prevents you from doing that, just stay on the other side. Allowing yourself to feel how the body settles back in, the heartbeat is regulating, so is the pattern of your breath. And bring your hands back down by your sides. Take yourself up onto your hands and your knees. And we will come to sit back onto the floor. Let your legs come out in front of you. If you have a bolster, you might want to work with the bolster for a supported forward fold. If you don't want this forward fold to be supported, you could just keep your legs together, sit on the ground. You could also support it lightly by bringing a bolster underneath your knees. So it's depending on how easy this comes to you, and don't look for the outcome. We'll just shuffle a little bit around our sit bones. You might place your hands upon the floor or your support as you take an inhale. And then as you're breathing out, engaging the lower abdomen again and leaning forward with a straight spine. As your hands come forward, again, no outcome needed from here. Just want some extension into our back line. If it is available to you, you can lean as far forward as is good for you. But if you're feeling you would rather want to stay more upright, for whatever reason, no excuses needed, you could use your bolster in front in an angle and rest your head against while keeping your spine long and the legs extended. Closing the eyes. And if you found the sighing to be beneficial for you today, you might have a few sighs and just let the breath go. Noticing the mind as it explores this shape. Or you might find the mind wandering into some kind of judgment or away from the shape. Encouraging yourself just to be here, the breath, the body. And loving every single bit that you experience here. It could be as simple as that there is the breath that helps you, or the support that you have chosen. Last, a full breath within this shape before you're carefully guiding yourself out, and that might be a walking or a sliding back of the hands as you come again to an upright spine. We're ready for the inversion, and this will be our resting pose today as well. If you are using the 2 blocks and the bolster to set it up, I will show you. Otherwise, it is like legs up the wall pose, and if there's nothing but a wall that you have as a support, you could use that. But if you were to use, for example, a couch, you would sit with the side, just simply like legs up the wall as well. Roll onto your back and keep the knees bent as you're resting them up. If you're using the props instead, we will make a little construction. To achieve the same, you would step your blocks up high, have them a little bit apart, and then take your bolster and place that on top. This is called Stonehenge. Makes sense for those of you who know what that is. And you would approach it in a similar way. You would move your hips quite close towards it. You can have a little bit of a cushion behind the head as well. And as you roll down, you might likely notice you forgot your blanket or jumper. Please get back up to get that. And then you would place on a more solid support. Last time I tried this, it worked a lot better. So making sure that you're not collapsing into the Stonehenge pose. And you could place your legs up and release. Well, this is not working for me, but hopefully it is working for you. What has to be demonstrated? Keeping your legs up and resting. The reason why I've chosen a slightly different inversion today is when we're resting the legs up and we keep them in a bend, there's a nice release happening around the lower back, but also much more relaxing for the hip flexors, which are often a bit over-engaged. So I highly encourage you to elevate the legs, whether that's on the blocks and the bolster or on a chair or a couch, is up to you. And then let the arms fall away from the body again. This is a time for stillness. And while you might notice that there is some physical relaxation happening around the lower back and pelvis area, you might over time also notice a sense of rejuvenation and of deeper presence. It is the presence that I would encourage you to engage with. This being here in this moment. With the body resting in a gentle inverted position. Noticing when the mind begins to wander, maybe attaches to something, returning into the awareness of this shape. As it feels like you could use more time just being here, please feel free to take that opportunity. If you would like to finish with a short seated chant, you could gently roll over to your side, potentially stay there for a breath or two, and then come into a seated shape. I've chosen the same shape again. While you might not see me, it doesn't matter, as I've used my bolster, legs on either side, and just sitting upright and comfortable. If you're looking at the screen right now, I put the chant onto the screen. If you feel you would rather listen to the chant, that's okay. But we could chant this all together for a few rounds. The chant goes Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. If the words come out imperfect, it's still perfect as is. If you like to hold the mudra with a light pull on the fingers, you could, but you could also keep resting the backs of the hands down or bringing your hands together in front of the chest, your choice. If you're familiar with the chant, you could also close your eyes. Let's start just with the breath in and the breath out. Then inhaling for the first round. Om Gam Ganapataye Namaha. 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 Pausing, just focusing on what you're feeling. So we might all bring the hands together in front of our hearts. Ask for that ability to overcome obstacles while letting things be and not grasping. Extending to each other the light bow. Namaste.